That's fun.
Welcome back, everybody. It's 2022 Draft Summit for KCSN and RGR Football. We are back together. Different crew. Maddie's here this year. We didn't see you last year, Matt, Dan, Kent, myself. How are you guys?
It's awesome to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting me on. I feel honored. I like coming to talk draft with all different people. So I'm happy to come in here, guys, and shoot it around a little bit with you guys. And I see Kent enough, but the other two faces here. You guys.
We are definitely different people. That is a good way to put that.
You're
We
not wrong
are
about
out
that.
there. I just wanted to get together because this is always the culmination for me. For all of you who read our draft reports, salute.
Appreciate you.
Because I'm drinking tonight. It's like, was this as much a marathon for you guys this year as it was for Dan and I? Because this is much more difficult than last year.
Yeah. I don't know what it was about this year, but I maybe it was just how the season ended for the Chiefs or something. I'm not entirely sure, but this year was tough. The grades were tough. This was a weird year to grade. And I mean, it felt different, and it was definitely a grind to say the least.
I could take a nap. Maddie, who's the hardest guy for you?
Oh man, the singular hardest guy. Okay, so this is only a little bit Garrett Wilson for me out of Ohio State. I'm just gonna start right at the top, right? I didn't get it when I first watched him. Didn't get it. Don't see it. I don't understand why we like him. And the more I watched, and it kind of came when I was watching Chris Olave, I'm like, okay, well, there's a little bit more here than I gave him credit for. And then you watch them more. I'm like, I still have concerns, but I see what people see now. It's like, it's Garrett Wilson. Just start right at the top. Sometimes I say I didn't get it. Other times I got it. And when it's that hit or miss, it gets kind of hard for me to get a clear picture, I guess.
I
hear you. Dan, who's the toughest for you?
George Pickens, and I'm gonna go right at their stuff. He's their number one rated receiver, and I watched his games, and I'm like, okay, rookie year or his freshman year, love it, fantastic. Sophomore, I'm like, oh, okay, he didn't really do a whole lot in terms of getting better, kind of stagnated. Georgia's offense isn't very cut out for it being a pass-heavy offense, and then he got hurt, and I'm like, well. Okay, so you have your freshman season, and now we have 2.5 years of what's he going to be? And we have to hope that he gets back to that form. Obviously, the traits are all there. I'm just and trust me, I want to love him. I want to love him. His freshman stuff was okay, this is legit best in the whole draft. I get that. But I'm just trying to will myself to see it, and I want him to get healthy. It's a lot like Justin Ross in that regard. Get back to being healthy, and now I'll be happy with that.
I think
we might all be happy. We might
be happy because he might be a Chief. Who knows?
We might have to be happy.
His athletic profile is so tantalizing, and I do think even comparing him to Justin Ross, I think Pickens already looks a lot more farther along athletically than Ross did. For sure. Ross is so interesting. We have him pretty high in our guide, but I don't know if I feel as strongly about him as maybe we have through the process, because I think as he checks some of the boxes with the athletic testing, he didn't check them. Exactly. And so he probably, if the timing in our process had been a little different, he may not be as high as he was. When we produced. So he's an interesting cat too. But I like Pickens a lot. But I mean, it's the ceiling, it's the upside. It's a projection because he's got the frame, athleticism, and some of the high level plays to be a guy that could actually turn into a wide receiver one. And I think that's where we kind of sat along with him, is that's it's a projection. It's a big projection, honestly, especially when Stetson Bennett's throwing the ball to you.
Exactly. Or a combination of 3 different quarterbacks. Just
that all aren't good. None of them.
Yeah. I still think Ross is a value, like Ogulele, or however I'm supposed to say his name, which I don't say correctly.
Good luck with that.
Faalele, I think I've gotten that one down. I got
there. You go.
It's like a twitch now, but it's okay.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, right. It's so simple. But I'm just Ross could be a 5th round pick this year, and he's almost as much a question mark as Watson or Pickens in the 2nd, right? So it's I don't know. I don't remember where you guys landed on Watson. I'm still very iffy on him. I'd love to see him run, but let's see how.
We're gonna put Kent, I think, by himself, right? Dan, are you a big Christian Watson fan, Dan?
So I was one of the first people that I saw posting like get Christian Watson in Kansas City, but I didn't say like when it was. Like now, and then we have like these. Everyone's like, get him in the first, get him in the. I'm just like, no, stop the train. We got to stop the train, guys. We gotta pull it back. We have to understand what he is, what he did, and it's kind of like Pickens in that regard with the offense. Like, yes, it's not catered to him, but I watched him every single game last year of NDSU, every single one. He ran like 75% curl routes, and I'm just like, okay, he can run a curl. He can run a curl. I got it. Like, and it's just, I love the upside. Like, again, this is a lot of projection upside for these players in this draft, specifically with these wide receivers. A lot of them have some years where they're still learning. And Jameson Williams, 1 year of production, had to transfer to get to that production. So you've got a lot of guys you're projecting, and Watson's just like, I have probably a second round grade on him due to his athletic profile, but his tape is easily third, fourth round, in my opinion.
Honestly, I guess Maddie's trying to call me like the Christian Watson stan. I just
oh no, I just thought you were kind of by yourself. You seem to like Christian Watson a lot. You might guy him.
I like Christian. I don't know. I like Christian Watson a lot. Did I my guy him though?
I'm pretty sure you did.
Or was that Jake?
I think you both did.
I'm about to find out.
Yeah, you better go.
I'm gonna go look and double check.
You act like I'm trying to put you in a corner. I think you put yourself in a corner, buddy.
I have no problem. I wasn't supposed to actually. Did I?
This is what sucks about putting out a book.
I was about to say,
okay.
I see this Ken's guy and Jake's guy. That's what I got.
I don't think I actually did that. That might be a typo. We've had a few of those in the guide this year.
It happens.
But no, I like Christian Watson, and I actually value him right in that round 2 territory, if I'm being honest. So like, we've had this conversation, me and Maddie, and a lot about like, okay, where are you at with Christian Watson as far as, okay, like, are you comfortable with him being the big swing at receiver? Are you comfortable with him? Like, where are you comfortable with him? Like, I think we've all kind of settled around pick 50.
Yep.
If Watson's the pick at 50, I'm happy. I think Maddie's a little bit more on the fringe there. I'm good at 50. Like, I think that's about where my line is. And the interesting thing is, like, we're talking about, there's a lot of projection in this class for a lot of different reasons, because like some guys blew up the Senior Bowl. Like, we'll talk about, him, Boye Mafe had his Senior Bowl is a lot better than his Minnesota tape. And like, I think there's a few guys like that. Watson's interesting because like what he was able to put out there, like he showed more than a curl, Dan. Like,
I understand that. I'm just saying,
but yeah, no, I get it. But like, there's just like, I mean, he's a fascinating projection, and like what we saw from the Senior Bowl was just so high level. I loved it, and his release package I thought was really, really nice, and he was creating a lot of separation, a lot of those one-on-ones, and it wasn't like the guy that's taking 6 seconds to get open, like most of the Senior Bowl routes. Like, he was actually getting clean quick. So I mean, those are the things I like about him. I think 50 is about where I value him though.
Yeah, I'll give you a name of somebody who else blew up their Senior Bowl and was drafted high that also had questions. Denzel Mims, and where has he gotten to?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is like I get the Senior Bowl talk and the one-on-ones and watching him do all that stuff. I get it. I try to take much less of that into my evaluation now, because I've gotten to the point where like I had Denzel Mims probably in the first because of what I saw him do in the Senior Bowl and what he was able to work on from Baylor. And you see it doesn't really translate all the way to the NFL. And with the Senior Bowl in general, you don't get the whole encompassing of the draft, the entire draft, everyone who's coming out. So you don't always get the best guys that they're playing against. But so I try to look at what he did and still try to compare it to his tape and know that, yeah, he probably has much more in the tank in terms of, like you said, his release packages and his actual route running ability. But we're still, I personally still am at the point with Watson that he's got far more to do in terms of, he still is like a Turner, in my opinion. He's not a quick guy by any stretch of the imagination in terms of like what we saw at the Senior Bowl. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be able to do that in the NFL, but where is he going to get to? How is that going to translate? So I think 50-62 is where I've landed as well.
So my big question, because I see similar things too. When I was there, I felt the same way about the edge class, like you were saying about Boye. I came away with their like kind of meh on Johnson, because Maybe I'm alone. Couldn't care less. Trevor Penning is not a first round pick, fellas. There was zero competition in the Super Bowl. Let's be clear about this. So whooping ass down there does not make me really love you. So I'm kind of in the same boat. But those two are the positions that the Chiefs need, right? Yep. So for us, the question comes back to me is, how much are they going to press? Are they going to fall in love like they did with Clyde, before, which was, I didn't even think was that much of a need, where now they clearly have needs. So that's what I wanted to ask you, Matt.
They don't take a running back.
Well, I'm not saying they're going to take a running back.
They go jump Buffalo for Breece Hall.
Look,
let's go.
I've seen too many mocks recently, or people saying Breece Hall, he could be a fit in Kansas City. He could. You're right, but if they do that, I'm gonna. Sorry.
Was there a bus crash for the team or something? What don't I know? If there's another running back drafted for this team, I'm going to lose it.
Well, what if it's a fullback? What if it's a fullback though?
We already have one of those, one of the best ones in the league. I mean, I'm happy. I only need one. Okay. I'm not selfish.
All right. I'm just over here waiting for Connor Hayward to be drafted in the 7th round now.
Right. Hey, I'll line him up at H though. It'll be fine.
Perfect. We're in lockstep now. Yeah, that's what the Chiefs need. Defensive end, receiver. The unfortunate thing, receiver, I think they can get by, right? If they don't have to press, I think they've done enough that you can get by and not necessarily wait to find value, but you can be a little patient and find something that fits. But at defensive end, can they? I mean, they asked their number one defensive end to take a pay cut to stay in Frank Clark. They have Mike Dana, who they've constantly just kind of rotated. I don't know if they have this belief that he's a full-time guy. Kando was a healthy scratch down the stretch. Now he's a rookie. So there could clearly be a step, but do they have the functioning bodies to go out there and play defensive end right now? I don't know. I don't think so. It's they might have to press. They might have to go chasing Breland Speaks again, just in whatever round they want it to be. They might have to get desperate. And now why they were desperate for Speaks that particular year, I'll never know. But they might have to get desperate and go make a trade and go get something at this point in time, because it's going to be hard. It's hard to pick at the end of a round and find a 6'3", 260-pound long defensive end that can play football. Yeah. Those guys go in the top 10. They're in a difficult spot.
That was the George Karlaftis comment right there.
It was.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Was that the name of Kelsey's TV show, Jason Breland Speaks? I can't remember. But so fine. We'll get to Karlaftis.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
He's just a number. Where would you take him? Doesn't have to be a Chiefs pick. What number that you would take him at, Kent?
Honestly, it's 20-ish. And it's been a journey with George Karlaftis. we could have
it's been in one straight line though, right?
Yes.
Our opinions don't turn with him. They
right?
just.
I mean, the opinions have definitely stayed in the same spot. It's just everything else around him has moved.
You can run at these. You can run at your opinion of George Karlaftis with pretty great ease as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's man. Okay, so the roller coaster of George Karlaftis, because I think you Brian, you say, hey, maybe we're not you're not as high on a Jermaine Johnson. I think Jermaine Johnson's going in the top 10. I still think the 4 top edge rushers are going top 10. So now you're pushing yourself into an issue with need. Mm-hmm. I mean, I mean, if you're gonna talk about a kid that just turned 21, has some linear athletic traits and some linear explosion, has had some production, he has a few moves to his name. He can that is still young and still he has the physical traits. You could probably talk yourself into him, and so I'm kind of gone all over the place where I didn't want him at one point where, I was hoping just trade up for whatever edge falls at 15, one of the big 4 that falls. None of them are falling to 15. And if one of them does, go trade up. But
I'm good with that.
But 20-ish, I mean, go do it. Just I mean, even, and this is a Chiefs take. I mean, it's just, if they go trade up to 21 for Karlaftis, I'm not upset. I'm fine with it. I get it. I 100% get it. And I'll be content. And there's actually some juice and ability there to actually develop. And if they do, they can get a decent pass rusher there.
I will set fire to things if they trade up to 21 to draft Karlaftis.
I just feel like, Spagnuolo, the only thing that didn't talk him into it was pronouncing his name off the start. He probably took a couple times to get it right. And then he was like, okay, this is the guy that I want. Like, it feels like he's the perfect Spags type of defensive end. Like, that's what he wants. And
Is George that hard to say?
No, the Karlaftis.
Dude, Spags is gonna call him Carl.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly what he's gonna call him.
We really like Carl. Carl's been doing really good. He's getting great. He's developing really nicely.
Like, that's exactly probably what he read, and he's like, I want this George Carl dude. That's what he said. Like, that's what he walked into Brett and was like, this is it. But
it's gonna work.
We've all talked about David Ojabo. Like, I think that the dream specifically for people like me who are Michigan fans, we knew that Hutchinson wasn't a shot as soon as he started destroying Big Ten offensive lines, even though he did struggle against Georgia's offensive line. So we're sitting there, like I sit there, I'm like, David Ojabo is the guy. Now he gets hurt. The plan, I think, for Kansas City at defensive end, with bringing Frank Clark back, seems to be stagnant at 1 year. You talk yourself into finding a way to make this work for a year. And then if you start to see the Karlaftis fall, or even if Karlaftis goes to the Ravens at 14, that's 5 edge rushers in the top 15 or 14, wherever the Ravens pick. Then you're starting to talk about how you're going to get by. And it just, you can talk yourselves into the Ebiketis at the end of the first round.
No, I can't.
A lot of people will, and they do. But I truly feel, and this is probably, I know it's not a lot of people's favorites opinions, but I think David Ojabo is worth the risk in the back end of the first round. If you can find a way to make your defensive end formation work, we don't know what's going to happen with Malik Herring. Like, that dude, people forget Malik Herring was even a Chief. Like, I've seen it all over Twitter. Like, oh, that guy was a Chief. He's on the roster. Obviously, you have Kando. There's always Melvin Ingram a year, maybe. Who knows? He was with the Dolphins a little while ago, but nothing's happening there. So, I mean, you can talk yourself into the Karlaftises. You can talk yourselves into the Ebiketis, but David Ojabo has actual top finishes of this entire draft class at defensive end within his range of outcomes. I think that's reasonable to say, up with the Trayvon Walkers with the athletic traits. So I'm always more of the get him and make it work for a year and hope, but that's probably more of a wish than anything at this point.
I'm with you. I love David Ojabo. I'd love the Chiefs to take that shot. It's really hard for me to come up with the rationale that goes through the defensive coaching staff's mind to take not only a light player, but then a guy that is actively bad versus the run right now. Like, I think he could get better. Like, he just doesn't know what he's doing. So that's fine. It's really hard to go to, we were talking about Steve Spagnuolo and be like, hey, Steve, I know this guy can't play the run and I know he's pretty light, but we're going to put him on your roster. And he's just like, I have a hard time seeing him agree to that. But it's one of those things that you hope that, from our standpoint, Brett Veach, puts his foot down, says, I love this guy. We're going to find a way to make it work. And there's value in a guy that's a designated pass rusher, especially early in his career, if he's going to be really good at it. And I mean, David Ajabo's for bang for the buck. I mean, he's the second best, just pure, the second best potential as a pure pass rusher in the draft class, behind only Thibodeau for me. I could think his understanding of movement and space, even though his rush move pool is pretty limited, he's really good on it. And he understands how to attack space. Like, I'm for it. It's just, I don't know how you could possibly convince Spagnuolo to get this guy in the first round, or that that's a good fit. And like, that's always been my holdup with like fully endorsing, like, the Chiefs could do this route.
Well, so this is what's interesting to me with all the stuff we're talking about here. And like, trying to find Steve Spagnuolo defensive ends is very hard. Just period.
Yep.
And
tell me about it.
You wrote your whole, you built that profile of him. But I thought it was interesting hearing, hearing Brett Veach in his press conference the other day talking about the edge position specifically, because someone asked, was it Briscoe? Did Briscoe ask that question? I think
it might have been.
Shout out Josh Briscoe, I guess. But like, he asked a great question, kind of just talking about, working with the coaching staff on preferences, styles, and all that stuff. And with pass rusher, what Veach kind of talked about was like, hey, look, we've had to have a lot of conversations about the 34 rushers with Spags. because you got to have a plan for him. You know, you might have to kind of alter things a little bit than what you typically do if you're going to go out and grab one of those guys. But I think there's some of these players here that present, you know, these big Steve Spagnuolo edge types are probably gone before 20 because George Karlaftis, and there's some decent kind of speed rusher types that could fall down a little bit farther. You talk about maybe like an Ojabo, Ebiketie, you know, we'll see where Ebiketie falls. Like, I think he's probably a top 50 pick when it's all said and done. So, like, do the Chiefs, if they do stand pat at 29, do they have to talk themselves into deviating away from what Steve Spagnuolo typically prefers and kind of building around them? This is the year. If they're going to do it, this might be the year that they actually really do a hard deviation away. I'm not banking on it, but like, I mean, they might look at it a little bit and kind of say, you know what, we're gonna try to alter things a little bit here.
I like where you're coming from, because the thing that I keep theorizing about is not just talking yourself into a new direction, but doubling up on them. Because I think you have to take more shots, especially if you're going to break from your norm. And there's 3-4 edge rushers all the way down to the third, maybe even the top of the fourth round, that you can at least come in, put them in a wide 9, let them rage off the edge and get something in terms of pressure out of them. Maybe it is designated role, but it is what it is.
And then you double up with someone that maybe fits the profile. You know, like we throw Josh Pascal's name around a lot because he's a bigger edge, good against the run. He'll be good against the run. Some inside outside versatility. Like maybe you package, you know, you go with a speed rusher and then go at a bigger body guy that maybe Steve Spagnuolo likes a little bit more.
See, it's funny. The first question I asked you guys, he was my hardest eval because I settled on him. I want him at 3 tech. I'm done with him outside. I just want to put him in there and let him wreak havoc.
Some of his win, like his best, I think his quickest, he gets some really nice quick wins along the interior for sure.
Listen, you can't find more than like 5 reps of him actually rushing up the arc. Like, it doesn't exist. He just kind of runs into a tackle when he rushes off the edge. Now, a lot of it's spying and stunting when he's lined up out there, but like as a rusher, his only rush reps are on the interior, and that's where they do look the best. So yeah, I get the concept of trying to move him inside. Like, I would not be upset if the team did that, because I mean, especially a team that, like the 49ers, that like to move guys around, that like all the stunts and stuff, just to line him up on the interior the majority of the time, or stunting. That makes a ton of sense. And then from the Chiefs side of it, like, you just want Mike Dana, but kind of souped up a little bit, a bigger version of Mike Dana. Yeah, Josh Pascal makes a ton of sense. Maybe you can finally teach him how to rush off the edge. 5 years, 5.5 years, whatever he's been at Kentucky, you think you'd see a little bit more, but who knows?
It's him. I don't think you get in position for Jones. And quite frankly, after the two of them, I don't see much at the D tackle spot in terms of pass rush. Guys that maybe can eat some blocks and doubles, but I don't see anybody that's actually helping you over Turk. Maybe if you get something out of Colin Saunders, like, I don't see upgrades available in this draft at that position.
Yeah, it's tough. Like the defensive tackle position is outside. There's obviously the obvious top guys who I think Devontae Wyatt is, in my opinion, starting to fall out of the first round talk. I think we're seeing the way that tackles being pushed up, specifically Trevor Penning, the Tulsa tackle, Tyler Smith, like they're starting to go up. And I think that defensive tackle is starting to fall down a little bit. But I personally like Perrion Winfrey. I know that also is a bit more of a projection, because he was coming out and then he had his Senior Bowl that really got everyone's attention around him. But I think that there's some raw attributes there. Explosion, clearly. Hands, probably a little bit of work to do there. But clearly he's a powerful guy, and that helps you in the interior. The problem for me is that you're probably looking at replacing not only Colin Saunders, because I don't know what's going on with him. Healthy scratches last year.
He's already replaced.
Yeah,
like call Jack Stack. That's what's going on.
Yeah, there's something that you wasted a 3rd round pick on a guy out of, I forget exactly the school that he was at. Western Illinois.
Leathernecks, baby.
It's a wicked backflip at the Senior Bowl, though.
Yeah,
ding, ding, ding.
We're going to talk about Senior Bowl performances.
I mean, yeah. So you have these guys and then Derek Nottie, who maybe is not going to be back after a couple of years. You're looking at replacing virtually everyone on your defensive line, and this draft is not really the one to do it unless you're going to try to get a Devontae Wyatt or a Travis Jones or maybe even a Jordan Davis to go up. But you're going to go up to draft a defensive tackle. probably not going to happen. So they've got to find players that can maybe take some of these edges and convert them into defensive tackles and find ways to get interior pressure, because the way that Spags and this defensive front is constructed and has been constructed, it's not getting the job done. As much as they've gotten those pressures, they have not been hitting the quarterback enough. And it's shown on their defense when you have so much tied to the safeties. Now you don't have Tyrann Mathieu, you've gone to Justin Reed, and maybe they don't think that Juan Thornhill's the answer. I'm not entirely sold on that yet. I thought he was his rookie season. He got hurt. And then they were like very, very hesitant to go back to him. They kept trotting out Dan Sorensen. So that tells you something a little bit. So I don't know. I'm a little worried about the defensive line construction as a whole. And like you said, Kent, the first 4 or 5 defensive ends in this class are going to be almost out of reach. It starts to get thin. And if you want to go get a Super Bowl this year, in the future, you got to start building. That defensive line room is very, very slim. And this is not the draft to really be bolstering. Maybe you get some depth guys, but that's not enough to do much. So it's a tough call.
So I wanted to ask you guys, because we were talking D tackles, where do you guys fall on Logan Hall? Just like he would be number 2 for me. The hardest evals was Logan Hall out of Houston after Garrett Wilson. He's my defensive guy of that. It's kind of same process for me. I wasn't sure what to do with him at first. The more I watch, he started climbing up my board. The more I've gone back through and rewatched it. It's like, where do you guys kind of stand on him in terms of D tackle, D end? Yes. What do you guys do with him?
I'm as a DT in the 60s. That's where I got him.
Yeah. I think that the thing that fits, but again, you're talking again about taking a guy who was defensive end, right? He was 200 put on some weight. Or am I thinking of that wrong?
I think he just always played D tackle for Houston.
Okay.
I think he played D tackle even as a freshman at like 260. And then he just kind of stayed there and added weight. And yeah, he's just kind of hanging out around 270, 280.
It's one of those guys that just gets off the ball. I see. And again, I don't necessarily think I personally struggle with him. I think he's going to stay at defensive tackle, but you're also probably going to be switching him with Chris Jones a little bit. I'm not sold that he's going to be a guy that replaces a Derek Nottie. He's definitely going to be you find ways to spread them both out a little bit and get him in gaps. I'm okay with that. You can find a way at 62 if you've tackled both your needs up top, if you've maybe traded back and gotten some other, I don't know what they plan on doing in terms of the value that you have in the second round, like Brett Veach talked about. If they want to take one of those picks, trade up, one of them trade back, I could see that being a possibility. And then Logan Hall factors into that in that second round. I think that around 62, 60, a little bit above, maybe if you're really reaching, he definitely fits in terms of getting some interior pressure, which I think they desperately need.
Well, I was gonna say, no, you go, Maddie. I had some other thoughts. You go.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying, for me, it's just so hard because I see the profile and like I want to like him as a guy that can play outside and then kick inside, right? Like you look at 280 pounds, depending on where you look at his arm measurement, he's got the requisite length according to the Senior Bowl, over 33-inch arms. So like you want to see him play defensive end, and then Houston never did it. At the Senior Bowl, they never gave him outside rush reps. He goes on a radio interview, I believe in the Dallas area, and talks about how he wants to play 3 or 5 tech. And so like, I don't know if there's this outside flexibility that everybody likes to push up for him, but then you still see just the movement. So it's like, okay, this guy can't turn for a 280 pounder. Like he's got this lateral agility. So like I see the tools and I get why everyone's so intrigued, but then I'm with you guys is like, if I'm looking at him as just a D tackle, definitely late round 2, right? Like that's where I got to settle him in at. It's just all these people like him more than that. And then I see the traits, like just the raw physical traits that make me think he could play DN. And I'm like, maybe I'm a little too low on him right now. Maybe he should go a little earlier because there's a chance he can play D end on early downs and kick inside. And that's rare. Doesn't happen often. I get it. He would be the outlier. It's just, I'm so lost in the middle of what I think about him right now.
I think his frame looks edgish a lot, honestly, too. I think there's a little bit of, I think he kind of looks like an edge. He kind of looks like a Spags edge, honestly. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I'm fascinated to see, like, we've had this conversation a lot recently, me and Maddie have, about, okay, so like when the Chiefs are addressing defensive line, because they will interior in some capacity, like, do we think it's more one tech? Do we think it's more of a three tech that could potentially replace Chris Jones if Chris Jones is on the way out and after this year, because he's going to be really expensive after this season, and some of those conversations you guys start having. But like, I just, as interesting as some of these, penetrators are, like, some of these bigger dudes too are really good. Like Travis Jones. Like, I just want Travis Jones on my football team.
Yeah.
And
No.
like, if the Chiefs, I don't care. If the Chiefs take him at 50, I'm not mad. If they take him at 30, I'm probably not too upset too. Just, I know there's so many other needs. He's just a really good football player. Maybe I should have put a my guy stamp on him. But yeah, I just like, I almost wonder if they wind up going with some of these one tech type guys, or if they wind up grabbing a one tech type more than a true three tech, or just a bigger dude, for Steve Spagnuolo. That's the other thing we're fascinated. We had a conversation about this, like Steve Spags, like his preference has been bigger interior players as it has been in the past. It hasn't been, Chris Jones isn't exactly the Steve Spagnuolo prototype of defensive tackle either. So like, do they go grab a bigger dude, that kind of fits what he prefers along the interior more than what he has in the past?
My senior bowl notebook has Neil Farrell right next to Jones in terms of spark, in terms of firing up that offensive line. On film, he's not the same guy, but if he brings something to you for 15, 20 snaps a game, is it worth that in the sixth instead of trying to get Jones in the second? That's the dilemma for me that I keep coming back to. Like, I don't need you to be a 60 snap a game guy. I need you to get in there when I need you to get in there. And that's what it comes back to for me. And it's just so hard to find. And everything that we talk about leads me back to the thing that we never talk about, because this is Brett Veach. And so there won't be a corner drafted worth it. Enough.
Sorry, cornerback?
Right. Yeah. They play that one spot that we never look at.
We didn't do cornerback in the guide.
Right.
There's no point.
Yeah. They're all UDFAs. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like if you lose out on the positions we've talked about, could this be the year that changes? Could it be like that's value at 29 and 30?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you feel comfortable about the medicals of Andrew Booth Jr.
Right.
I mean, like, that's the guy. Like, I think everybody's kind of like looking around and like, I think most Chiefs fans are kind of hoping Andrew Booth Jr. is the guy that kind of winds up falling to the Chiefs potentially. But I mean, like, Brett Veach has to address it more than he ever has. Like, I think L'Jarius Sneed was taken with like pick 138 or something like that, and that's the highest cornerback that Veach has ever selected, and it was still a safety.
Right.
But I think
JT Woods, come on down.
I know, right? We talking like maybe JT Woods is a court, but I mean, they're gonna do it before 138, and they have to.
Are you
because
sure?
they don't have this? Yeah, they don't have like the. I mean, as
I'm
much
not
as
sure.
I'm not sure.
You really. Oh.
I'm with you, Ken. I'm with you. They have to.
Him talk. He is so hard on the value and how corner never falls at value. And like, I get it, it's lying season, but this goes back years when you listen to Brett Veach talk about value. It's just, I would place the bet that it happens before pick 138. Yes, I would, but I'm not sure. I am not sure that they take a corner earlier. And if they do, I'm not sold it's not a safety. I'm not sold that it's not a safety that's going to go play corner, because it's just, that's what they do.
I love it. I do kind of hope that happens, just because it's a fun. I mean, Brett Veach's best cornerback that he's ever drafted was a safety. So,
and his second best one and the best one he signed was a safety named Tyrann Mathieu when he played in the nickel. Like, this is where he has a success.
This is his wheelhouse.
So does that mean we're looking at Dax, Petrie, Woods, Damari Mathis can go in the nickel. I mean, you can get him late. Like, you don't have to work 138. It's fine. I'll take the over on 138.
If we're sitting there and the Chiefs have used 8 of their picks in some way, shape, or form via trade ups, and they still haven't taken
so much more fun though. Like, you want Saturday to be fun and not a slog,
right?
You have them not take a corner by the start of Saturday.
If they haven't taken a cornerback by 138, that means that they are having to wait till round 7.
Yep.
Right.
Come on down.
Oh, that worked great. I love that, Pete.
But Bradbury's out there. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
James Bradbury. He'll be cut eventually, right? They're just waiting on that to happen.
$13 million cap hit if you want him. Okay, cool. And trade. And you have to trade a pick for him. Great.
Well, Brett Veach is just waiting for him to get cut. Like he's actually he's like 100% in on him getting cut. He doesn't know when it's going to happen, so he's going to wait to draft a corner, and then like day 3, he's going to get cut. He's going to go get him, and then he's going to start just picking them off. Like I got to go through my list here and just start taking corners eventually.
All right, I wanted to get all the talk of stamps. My guys, the guys you didn't put in the book, guys that you haven't told anybody about. Like if he ends up being one of those 7s that you think might actually make this roster, who is it?
Ooh, that's a good one. So we do like a lot of these guys are winding up in the books, but I think some of the guys that we have here probably don't get write-ups. You know, like there's kind of a difference between that. Let me look here. Let me think about this one. I got to think a little bit about this one. Do you have one off the top, Matthew?
I don't know if we got a write up because I honestly haven't read the running back section of the KCSN draft guide. But my guy Keontae Ingram out of USC, did he get a write up, Kent?
He did get a write up, but your other guy Isaiah Pacheco did not.
Oh no, I got even better. I got another one too. This is one I've mentioned a lot too. Kevin Harris out of South Carolina. He's a guy I like.
Love him.
I do. And it's so bad because it's literally one game. It's a bowl game. It's the bowl game versus North Carolina where he was finally healthy. You know, his hip back surgery, he finally gets healthy from it. He looks explosive. He looks tough. Then you go back and watch his film from last year before he's injured. And you're like, wait a second. He's like their entire offense. Like he's actually a physical, semi-explosive runner and this 5'10", 225-pound, body. I don't know if he's got great vision. I don't know if he's got the best running back feel, but when you're explosive and run hard, like you can dig out a place in the NFL. And so as long as he's healthy, I do think that he's got a little bit more juice than a lot of people give him credit for. And he is probably a guy that will be a UDFA just because of the aforementioned injury history.
Okay. So I got a couple. So, Quintero Cole, I don't even think made the top 300 for us, and I really like him a lot as a safety. I think he's got some interesting ability as a in man coverage. He showed some ability at the East West Shrine Bowl, held up strong against some tight ends, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the East West Shrine Bowl. Bo Melton didn't get a write up for us, and he's probably. I know a lot of, but Bo Melton's not a sleeper. Like a lot of people really like Bo Melton. Like they're big fans of him. I think he's intriguing with the speed. Everybody makes the joke about the Rutgers quarterback. It's true. Like he really did not do him any favors, but like I think he's an impressive route runner. He made some really impressive, body adjustments to make some catches there at Rutgers at times. I think he's a really fun player. So there's a couple guys I like there. And I will shout another guy, Obina Easy, out of TCU. I don't know if he even made our top 300. I'm extremely biased on him. This is just personal bias because we actually his coach in high school was my college coach at Mid-America Nazarene, Jonathan Quinn, and so he was at the Shrine Bowl and we connected and we talked a little bit because we both kind of had some shared stuff. But I'm rooting for my guy Obina Easy out of TCU as well. So there's some guys for you.
Our fans will have heard this ad nauseum. I waited to make this tonight. The guy that I've been rooting for since I first watched him in like September is little Jared Stearns, Mighty Mouse. Because for Chiefs fans, who I know none of you will actually go watch, he reminds me of Alvin in the good ways. And I just feel like he's going to make somebody's team happy. Okay, so maybe I'll just change my
like the robot. You sound like a robot right now.
I've sounded worse, right?
That's good.
Perfect. Now you're good.
Now I just sound like I'm in an echo. My favorite thing about Stearns, though, he reminds me of Albert Wilson in the good ways. I think he's going to make somebody's roster and actually put a few good plays on tape. And I don't know. I'm rooting for him. He's like 5'7.25" or something like that.
He's like super productive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but who wasn't in that particular offense?
Yeah, I mean, you have to try really hard to not be productive.
Here's another one. Where would you take Zappy?
I'm day 3, round 6, 7. I think that's about what I put on him. He might have snuck into. He might have got a 5th from me when it was all said and done. Yeah, I think he got a 5th.
But he's definitely draftable, right?
Yeah, I think he's draftable.
Okay.
I mean, he had some I kind of fall for some of these guys too, though, that like don't really have maybe necessarily like the greatest arm strength. I don't know how I had the mile per hour record or whatever Senior Bowl. I mean, you were there, I guess. Like, was the ball zipping?
For the most part.
Was the ball zapping?
No.
Okay, because like I didn't really think he had like a ton of, but I did see a lot of layered throws from him at Western Kentucky, a lot of up on balls and some really nice touch and anticipation at times, as much as you could in that offense. I mean, it's it's tricky, but like, yeah, I like Zappy. I'd put a late day 3 on him.
Yeah. I have a mid 3. That's fine. I like the way he processes. He gets the ball out fast. He's decisive. He can actually recognize things when they're coming at him. It is what it is. Matt, do you see anything you like about him?
So I'm with Kent, and that normally I kind of like guys that maybe don't show all the physical traits, and you start falling for some of the processing, and you make these like the avenues and connections for how it's going to work out in the NFL. I've been burned one too many times by them though. So like now I'm just kind of like, I keep him at arm's distance. So we're looking at just late third for guys like that. Like it's got to be real. There's got to be something really, really special for me to overlook it. And it's probably why I'm lower on Kenny Pickett than just about anybody else. Is like, I don't see anything super special there. And like, I get it, production and the IQ's there, but I'm just like saying that with Zappy, just like, but in the NFL, when everything starts flying and happening quick, like what exactly are they going to be able to pull out in that situation? So arm's distance.
How are they solving problems? Because there's a lot of problems every single play.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of that too.
Where they're likely to land, it's going to be even worse. But I, for one, support the law firm of Zappy, Stearns, and Malone. So I'm just for that. So I know we're long, folks. We'll wrap it up here because I need to start drinking more. But at the end of the day, does this feel different this year, like post-COVID? Do you think that has some kind of difference? Because it feels different to me than it did in 19 or 18 or 17.
Just this. I mean, I think the draft is a little bit off because of COVID for sure, because you saw some of these guys getting these extra years. So you got like all these young or these really, really old prospects. I mean, I think Michael Clemens is Batty's age. So like I think it does feel different. And I mean, you've got like kind of the polarization on stuff. You still got your young projections, you still got young guys that you're trying to project, but you also got these really old guys that had an extra year in college football. And so like you've got all these different varying types, and it makes for interesting projections, and stacking two very polarizing sides of it together makes it, I think, pretty fascinating too. So yeah, it does feel different. It might be the wake of, you're right, I didn't even think about it like that, but it's kind of the wake of COVID a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think that's there at just as much of a big turn of coming just like off of the COVID year for me. And I think maybe it played a role in it because everybody kind of had to find a lot of their own private training. It's just how good everybody is on the athletic training side of it. Like how good everybody shows up to athletic testing, whether it's at a pro day or at the combine. Just everybody that wants to test well now, like everybody. You're not finding bad athletes coming out that are going to test bad at the combine or the pro day just seems so much more rare now versus 2019. And it makes it kind of hard when you use that as like a box checker, or you use that as like a person to cut off thresholds. Like, now all of a sudden there's a guy that like, wait, is he fast? I don't know. I'm questioning his speed. And he comes out and runs a 4.35 because he sprint trained for, a month and a half. I'm like, well, he is absolutely fast. I don't know if he plays it. So it's just athletic testing to me has changed the process so much.
How did that work for you this year, Ryan? Like,
yeah,
did you get the same vibe though? Like, is that kind of how you felt with all this, or like, how did it look out for you?
Yeah, I think guys who actually didn't play, the guys that opted out, I think they spent a lot of time training, not just for the field, for how they were going to go through the process. I think agents took advantage of that time to get dudes prepped for how you get drafted. I think that made the difference. I don't think it's just the turf in Indy, although that certainly played a big part of it as well. But for me, the other thing is too, that we see what I think are good athletes, decent. I mean, you can think whatever you want to think about Drake London, but the fact that he doesn't run because of all the times in Indy, when I still think he's got decent speed for a guy his size. I mean, he's going to compare comparably to Evans, in my opinion, just by going off the film, yet he elects not to, just because of how artificially pumped up all those things are.
Yeah.
And that's just one more reason to hate the running backs for not running their agility. So that's
right.
drives me nuts every year. So that's a normalization process. It makes things harder, but it also shows you just how many more outliers there are of what used to be outliers that are now approaching the norms.
Mm-hmm. No, I was fascinated because I know that's
Makes
such a big piece for how you do stuff, and so I was just curious. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. So wrap it up, Dan. I was just trying to figure out like what was the biggest challenge about this. What do you guys want to do? I'll ask Dan first, since he just got back. The baby's in good shape, right?
Yeah, she's good. She had to go to the bathroom.
What's the big challenge? What do we got to do next year that we didn't do this year in order to get better for us?
Like for us, okay, so we just need to start earlier. It's the biggest thing. Like you gotta find
I think that's
ways.
just a you and me problem. I think these guys are way ahead.
Well, yeah, but I think that just for everybody, like there's got to be a way to start even earlier for even people who do this on a yearly basis that have to get started earlier. Like I know for you and I, it's a different challenge that we're going to address this next year for all of those reasons. But the grand scheme, I think it's trying to find, how do I want to word this? There's always it's almost like a competition, like who's going to have the best grades, and we're going to talk about this and that and finding players like, for example, Jelani Woods out of Virginia. He's been the biggest talked about guy right now. We have to find more ways to stop always just pumping guys up because of just their athletic numbers. I think we've personally, I'm not trying to like throw hands at you, Ryan, because I know that that's a big part of your process. It's as much as the athleticism is a part of it. I really, for myself, I try to take the film at face value, and with projection incorporated with the athleticism, I think that there's always a little bit, at least in my own grades, that I try to buffer in, I guess you can say. But
you know, it's bad. I was on the radio in Denver last week, and you know, it's terrible when I'm the guy they ask the question and I have to say, there's more to Christian Watson than his testing. You got to go watch his film. If I'm saying that, something has gone horribly wrong.
I feel like the entire community as a whole takes not just the Senior Bowl, the Combine, the Pro Days, all this stuff, and they balloon these prospects into more than what they really are. So as an entire group, we have to be able to come to some kind of a compromise on the film and say, look, this player has really, really great numbers. He just doesn't know what the hell he's doing and figure out how to find that middle ground. Like I've struggled with it. I've struggled with it. Like I said, I had Denzel Mims as a guy that I wanted. Hakeem Butler, was a guy that I loved.
Oh, we all felt
we all loved Hakeem Butler, but I gotta find a way to consistently grow with that aspect while also building in a little bit of room for that growth because of the athleticism. So I've struggled with it myself, and I think that overall, as an overarching concept, the entire draft community should take a little bit of a grain of salt with these numbers and not try to take prospects and say, well, look at this profile, he's now a first-round player. Like, just try a little bit.
So Matt, what do you want to work on next year? Like what makes this life easier for us next season?
Oh, see, I don't know if it ever gets easier. There's plenty of stuff I want to work on. I just don't know if any of it makes it easier. Like that's the unfortunate part, right? Like after every single year, I'm going to take like a week off. If I'm being honest, I'm going to take like a week where I don't look at the draft, and I'm going to start looking at next year. I'm a sick person.
You are.
All right.
He's insane. He's always way ahead of us.
Over the summer, I'll go read some books. I'll do a lot of research on a specific subject. We've done coverages in the past. I've done wide receiver routes and releases, and I'll go focus on something specific for the summer, and I'll try to carry that over into next year's grading process. So I don't know what it'll be this year, but I'll go study a position in depth and try to really get a new grasp on that. And then maybe I'll go back and look at guys that have played that position in the past that I've missed on. Like we talked about Hakeem Butler. I loved Hakeem Butler. I would have bet anything that he would be all right. But I kind of think that okay, well, he did move okay as an athlete, but he didn't ever understand leverage. Yes, he could turn for a guy his size, but he didn't necessarily do the whole thing quick. He flipped his hips quick, but he didn't decelerate and then turn and then accelerate out of it quickly. So I learned and I researched why, go back and look at some players. So I'll do stuff like that. The biggest thing though, for me to make the whole thing better, just talk about people talking about it, doing what we're doing right now, where we're talking about guys that we struggled with, guys that we maybe liked or didn't like, and getting other people's opinions. I'm not saying anybody has to change your mind. Like, you don't need to change your film grade or whatever your opinion is just because someone says so. But if you're willing to have an open dialogue with somebody, maybe they'll say something that just hits a little note in the back of your head and you'll be like, okay, well, maybe I should go watch through this new lens. Maybe I should go back and look for this, or, you know, and the more conversations like that we have. Okay.
I'm with Maddie though. Like, one of the things that we had a conversation shortly after the guide got done, and one of the things we felt we needed more of was discourse. And for circumstantially, there's just a lot that made it a little bit more challenging for all of us to kind of have the same kind of discourse that we have in the past about players. And so it's such a valuable tool for us, and it always has been, that we probably didn't get as much as we would have liked this year. And it's part of what makes the process fun for us too. Is the discourse and, you know, nicknames for players that we won't convey here, because that would reveal our true thoughts about certain players. No, but I mean, I think discourse is such a valuable piece of this, and being willing to listen and learn and have that, you know, kind of back and forth, in a real back and forth. Because I mean, that's such a valuable, and it makes it more fun when you don't feel as alone, you know. So discourse like this is really great too. Yeah. So it's a valuable piece that I think we kind of missed out on here, and it definitely was missed. I felt it all the time. So I know Maddie did too. Like, that was, yeah. So
specifically for us last year, because everybody was working from home, it was easy to do the day job at home and then talk to each other the whole time. And this year, everybody's day jobs are playing catch up for the missed year or whatever it is. Like, yeah, there was a lot less of that for us. And I'm sure there was for plenty of other people that do this. Like, just a lot of times it felt like you're kind of grading in isolation, and like, okay, all these guys I graded, I did through the same lens, but what does somebody else think? So yeah, I think that's always the biggest thing. When anybody asks me about draft stuff or scouting players or even NFL players, like how I learn or think about, like, just be open-minded and have conversations with people. You'll learn so much if you just allow someone to tell you their opinion on it. And then you don't have to believe it, or you can believe it, but like, listen to them first and then make that determination later and go back to it. It's like, that's always my favorite part about anything about football talk.
My draft year resolution is to let go of some of my idiosyncrasies from the past. I realize finally everyone's gotten through to me that the fullback is not the future of the NFL. I'm gonna get there, folks. But hey, this is fun. This is cathartic for me. I always enjoy doing this at the end of the draft season. Maybe we'll do it before it starts next year.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah, catch like. Well, you gotta. Oh, we have to. Like, we might have to catch each other in like September.
Right. Hey.
Oh no, that's when Chiefs season is. So,
right?
Oh, there's that.
There's that.
They don't start then.
Everyone
let
knows
us know when you're into 100
starts in
prospects.
October.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't used to start until January until a few years ago, fellas. So hey. Yeah. It definitely evolves. What were you gonna say, Matt? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I thought I heard something I didn't hear. We're good.
Okay. Well, we're as good as we're gonna get anyway. So I think we will just say thank you to everybody who sees this, whether it's just the four of us or all of you guys out there. But hey, this was fun. I'm glad we did it. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna kill it here.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll